The pass from Havili was magic. The shift on for Crotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith.
Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy.
Draft Rugby, the game they play online in heaven.
Welcome to the Draft Rugby Show, Season 5, Episode 18. I'm your host this evening, Cargie, and I'm joined by the better of the two Dales, Nelson Dale. Nels, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Obviously better than Harry. I've decided to turn up and commit to this thing where he's just not having that good of a season, so he's decided he just doesn't care anymore. We're not valuable enough to him.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? I mean, he didn't even come down to the Waratahs Crusaders match that you and I went to on the weekend. So it's becoming a trend, perhaps. Yeah, we were with the Pick and Drive boys there, and I had a really good time on the hill. And Harry had better things. I think he's just lost his interest in the Waratahs and the rugby, and it's really heartbreaking. Look, I mean, I heard Allan was saying he was watching rugby league. So, I mean, I don't know if he's lost the plot completely, but no, look, I definitely.
For anyone that doesn't know who Ellen is, that's my wife. Yes, she definitely said Harry was watching the rugby league. She saw him watching. So I think he was wearing a Rabbitohs jersey at the time.
Excellent. But no, look, I did definitely expect of the two Dales, if I had to expect one to not join the pod this week, it might have been you, given that we had a head-to-head matchup in fantasy footy this week. And how did that turn out?
No, we haven't done final scores yet. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, all right, very good. But we could deduce it looks like I may have bagged a win, and that would make us even for the year, given that you pipped me in the first one. But look, I mean, I think talking about Harry falling out of the picture, I mean, is he even in the top four anymore in the OG league? I think he's just absolutely lost everything. I
think he's a shambles.
Is it? Although it must be noted, this is 2 weeks in a row, 2 losses for both the Dales, so it's all come crashing down a little bit. But anyway, it is really.
I'm still probably sitting in second. I'm not too worried.
But anyway, how good was that Tars game though, Nels? I kind of made it. You similarly to me made a last minute decision like, let's get down to the game. I mean, how can we not go? It's Tars Crusaders, and God, we're glad we did. But like Leichhardt, almost a full Leichhardt Oval, and that game to get that win, how good?
Yeah, look, this is game 4 of the week, but obviously you can tell it's game 1 for us. It's the most important one of the weekend. But yeah, no, it was a packed crowd, very, very vocal crowd. It was reminiscent for me of the finals. Yes, I know the crowd size was different at a different venue, but it was the loudest and most vocal a crowd size, that size that I've ever been a part of. And I lost my voice definitely, having a few coarse words with a few players and a few of the refs and things, but no, it was a really, really good experience. And I just hope the people that turned up, the fans turn up for the next 2 home games because, the Tars, they're performing and they were entertaining. So there's no better week to do it.
That's it. And, Leichhardt, it was almost impossible to get a park somewhere in Leichhardt could barely handle the amount of rugby and Tar supporters down there. But definitely bodes well for the next 2 games. So I expect it to be an even bigger showing. So that'll be good. But look, without further ado, we should jump straight into the pod. So tonight's menu for Entree, very, very quick summary of round 11 and how that went down. For main course, we'll take a look to preview round 12. And for dessert, I believe we're just doing some continuing on with some grievances, or I've actually forgotten what we've got down there in dessert. What have we got for dessert, Nels?
Look, we're probably going to just touch on the Aussie side and how they've gone the last week, see if it changes how we feel, moving forward over the next few weeks, and probably have a little bit of a grievance or two.
That's I think we almost can't get away with not having one now. But it'd be good to have we've got the optimist back on the pod after Harry and I negative Nancy's in how we thought the Aussies were going to go in the Super Rugby Pacific crossover starting last week. So, all right, Entree, round 11. Very quickly, let's smash through these games. But first up, we had the Reds. First of all, we should note just how close all these games were. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah. Nels, who won the plus or minus?
Aussies won the plus or minus, mate. It was the first time, literally something like since 2012, I think, in a round that the Aussies won the for and against the Kiwis. The first 5 matches were all within 4 points. And then we'll touch on that blowout, I'd say, in the final match. We'll call it a blowout.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything over, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That first matchup was the Reds v the Chiefs, 25-27 to the Chiefs, so a real tight one right until the end. The Reds were actually leading at halftime. I think it was 13-6. They lost Tupou, and they just didn't have that class to finish it off. I think they're really missing James O'Connor at the moment. There was a couple kicks left out there, a penalty and a conversion that, one of those come off and they could win or draw, or two of those come off and they've won. But I mean, you can't really fault, the kickers in this opportunity. It wasn't like it was a woeful kicking game, but it just hurts to see that, they were so close yet again. If they had a little bit more accuracy, they could have got the win, but the Chiefs are no slouch of a side. So I think they did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. You nailed on the head with it's a bit devastating because, last week they were up 17-0. This week, as you said, again, ahead 13-6. And so really showing they've got it in them and from the start, which I think has been a really big problem in the last couple of years, is the Kiwis kind of getting away from you from the beginning. So really need to figure out how to see through that second half. And, but exciting. So similarly, the Force Blues, I was super surprised by this game. I had a whole bunch of Blues players in my fantasy side and I was ready for the boys to cash in. But no, the Force absolutely gave it to them, didn't they? They stood super strong over at HBF Park and they put everything on the line. It was really good.
This one was the surprise of the round for me. Not that the Blues won, but that the Force was so close in this match to late. I'm getting attacked by a dog over here.
Your wife like that, mate. That's
very rough, very rough. No, my wife's not attacking me. Very rough. It's definitely a dog. 18-22 with the Blues. The Blues just, I don't know, maybe there was something missing for the Blues, but I don't think they expected the Force to come out firing, and maybe they just were caught off guard a little bit. But the Force, they found a little bit of that, they were a little bit more reinvigorated, like we saw at the start of the Super Rugby season, where they defended a lot better. They were, a more cohesive unit, and I think that was a real positive for them. Even though they didn't get the win, I'd be really taking something out of this if I was a Force fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for mine, look, it was off the back of we've said, so we know the Force's defense is great, and we've said week in, week out, they just lack some offense, some attack. But Isaac Fines, wow, he really stepped up for mine. And not just him, also youngster Rishan Pasatoa, who's only getting better with more time in the saddle. And they just absolutely launching stuff everywhere, being able to put doubt in the opposition's mind. And so really good.
We said it from really early on that, these are the two players that they should be sticking with in the halves. Yes, we know there's some more experienced players, but these two are the future of the club in terms of, the control of their game. And they're both quite dynamic, exciting players. And this is off the back of a couple of weeks together. You can see that they're just gelling a lot better. They're reading each other and reading the team better. Well, I think Isaac Fines we've known about for quite some time, especially through the NRC, and he is really an electric half. I wouldn't be throwing him in Wallabies contention at the moment. I don't think he passes up to it, but in terms of his just control, in terms of picking when to run, when to do little pops, things like that, he's very, very, dynamic and dominant in those small, tight spaces. So really exciting one to see.
Yeah, for Mike, it just proves the value of a halfback who's really probing and testing around the ruck. Like when you make those extra players have to commit, stay in tight, and are always second guessing themselves, they don't quite feel the field as much. It creates so much more space. And also when you do get through, when you punch through those opportunities close to the ruck, it's just huge gain line ball. Like it just puts you on the front foot. It's so invaluable. So Isaac Fines, I thought, was awesome, and they've spoilers, but they've rewarded him with a start again this week coming up. So that was pretty huge. The next game, now talking about spectacles of the game, the Drua taking on the Highlanders in Fiji, in Suva. How good was that? 15,000 people, sold out crowd. Amazing.
I had a few people I was chatting to say, this is disappointing that the biggest crowd was in Fiji of so far this season, but I don't think it is. Like, it just shows you the need to get this team involved in Super Rugby and how much this means to Fiji as a nation and their fan base. And I absolutely love it. I really hope that, every week that they're at home, they're getting crowds like this, and we feel like we're being left behind. Like, this is a country that just lives off rugby. They don't have a lot of other sports there. So if they can create crowds like that, I think it's going to be a massive thing moving forward for them in terms of being really hard to defeat at home.
Oh, for sure. Look, I'm not going to lie. After that game as well, I did quickly look up, took a quick squiz at some flights to the next game. In it's
what are we looking at?
In Nadi up in against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, the game's on a Friday afternoon, so it's not a you got to take an extra day or two off. But I couldn't really find any great flights for me off the bat.
What are we looking at price wise, mate?
Oh, mate, I don't look at. I only look in Qantas points, mate. That's my religion, Qantas points. I don't actually pay money for flights. That's come on, mate. Where have you been? But no, anyway, just absolute spectacle. Was awesome and so close. The Drew are going down 24-27 to the Highlanders, and yes, the Highlanders were absolutely stoked to bag themselves a win. That's not their first win, is it? Or is that their first win in Super Rugby Pacific? I probably should have known this coming into the game, but that could well be their first win of the season.
Yeah, I really just feel like maybe they've had one more win. Yeah, I don't think they're.
Yeah. I feel like surely. Well, okay, as you look that up. But anyway, the game though, so close. And again, yeah, there were some penalty goals left out there. They've had one other win, mate. One other win. Okay, so good. We haven't completely thrown it.
Still, against Moana, I think one of the two Moana games.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Does that even count? I mean, Moana's playing 10 games in a row every 3 days or something, But
yeah.
No.
That's probably fair.
But yeah, no, what a game. And I don't know, for me, the big one from this, and look, I'm definitely biased because it's in my fantasy team, but Moreno, McArdle too. Is he back? Mate, he had a absolutely barnstorming game. He got into absolutely everything, kind of by necessity, given that they just were losing back rowers left, right, and centre. They lost Evans, Christian, Leo Willie had come on, another big unit who I was excited by. He got injured. So kind of by necessity, he just stepped up and was absolutely awesome, McArdle too. So. And did you have any stand out for you?
Oh, look, McArdle too. It's good to see him back in form. But just this whole backline for the Fijian Drua, mate. That centre pairing of Ravalval and Vota, Habosi in the wing, who really just has to be the most exciting winger in the game. And I mean, yes, there is other names we'll throw out, and I'll probably say the exact same thing about Tavatawa Nawai, but they're just absolutely thrilling, exciting players that know how to tear a team apart, and it just shows the value that this team has being brought into the competition.
I was gonna see a timestamp of how long it took you to mention Tavatawa Nawai, but look, I mean, it's fair enough. It's he was that good on the weekend, so well done. But look, let's move on to the next game. That was the Tars and the Crusaders at Leichhardt Oval on Saturday afternoon. The Tars getting up there 24-21, and so good. And I want to say the Tars getting up there in that one, despite the best efforts of the 16 men they were up against. Bloody Ben O'Keefe, old mate. I really want to go back and watch the game on TV, because there were some baffling calls as someone in the crowd watching the game. So I'm just, it's hard to sit there and feel like we're really hard done by when we got the win. But I honestly, that's what it felt like at the time. It really felt like we were just getting penalised out of the game, and that they were finding a way to try to get the Crusaders back into it. But I don't want to heap too much on Ben O'Keefe, but it's definitely not the first time that we've thought that either. I'm happy to heap on Ben O'Keefe for the whole pod. That's fine with me. That's
But I love that everyone kept talking about saying that this was such a weakened Crusader team. They've dropped Enor, who's out of form and maybe not one of their best two centres anyway. Or they've dropped Bridge, who's definitely not one of their top back three. Yes, they've rotated one of the centres with Blackadder, but they've got Pablo Matera coming in, who is world class. They've got Chrissy, who's a dominant and really hard-working 7, and they've got Colin Grace, who's, an all-black 8, basically. And it was such nonsense. The big loss, obviously, is Moonga, but it's not like it was a weakened team. We'll see a weaker team, definitely this week, and that's with Mo'unga there. So, it's an interesting one.
I agree. I think the dialogue was a little ridiculous. I think the dialogue should have just been, should they have rested Mo'unga or not? That's it.
Yes, that's the dialogue.
I
mean, look, yeah, I mean, it totally. It is a really baffling thing. We had to bring a hooker from Shoot Shield to come play our team, and we've got our third choice hooker. We lost, one of our props. We don't have our first choice fullback. We've just had a new guy starting on the wing. All this sort of stuff. Like, you can't use that to make the narrative. And I think the Waratahs chose their own narrative in this one, and that's what really mattered most.
Exactly. No, we don't have 3 starting sides like the Crusaders, but I think, look, we've been negative Nancy's to begin with, but talking about the positives, I mean, the Tars, they were just up from it, and they absolutely just got stuck in from the get-go. I mean, 14-0 up in about 10 minutes into the game. They just came out and absolutely belting the Crusaders, and I think caught them a little off guard. And by that, I just mean like every single contest just winning the physicality battle there. They were just like, look, this is our home ground. And, Darren Coleman's come in and said, look, we've got to win back the respect of the Waratahs fans and the New South Wales public and whatever. And man, have they done it? You know what I mean? Throughout over this season.
Look,
so
I think that's, the tar tough mentality that DC is building in this club. And I really hope he's there for a long time and this continues to build, because it really this year has looked a part of the DNA of the Waratahs, and it's been a long time since we've had that part as a part of our DNA, but it's fitting in perfectly. Jed Holloway's grown an extra leg this year, and just a bunch of other players are really stepping up. But for me, he, is a personification of what this team has done this year is Jed Holloway. So, if you need to see this, what's happened to this Tar side, you just look at him.
Absolutely. And I think one of my favourite comments from, I forget, one of the Pick and Drive guys was about the Crusaders, extra lock had been called up, whatever his name, someone Dowsel or something. And I was like, well, it's his first and last ever game of Super Rugby. So, well done for his short stint.
Well, first game for the Crusaders, I think he played Chiefs for someone that,
right.
Who cares? He's just a uglier, taller version of me, mate. So
that's classic. But
we've got similar amount of Super Rugby caps and similar amount of hair.
Yeah, I wanted to get on to you about doing a meme of we have Hooper with a Mo / undercover Hooper is what I want to call it. Then we have North Hooper, which is Fraser McWright. And you can even go to the extent of we have front row Hooper, which is Harry Hoopert, and we have lock Hooper, which is Tom Hooper.
And then we could have kicked by Hooper, and that's me, just another column on the side because of my big scar from him. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to go in the thought he was better than Hooper side. You know what I mean? No, we've forgotten about that.
Well,
I haven't years actually. It's been a while since we brought that up. But look, we've decided you were definitely faster than him at that point in your rugby careers. But that might be where the buck stops, unfortunately. So
in one match, I was better than him. I find out. I did whoop him that game, but he did leave me.
He can't let it go now.
He did. But he did leave me with 6 months short-term memory loss, so I don't really remember it. So I'm just going off what I've been told.
Well, fair enough. Hopefully he's not. I mean, having again spoilers, but Hoops is not with concussion protocols, not playing next week. So hopefully he hasn't got some bloody short-term memory loss after having his head almost taken off for that red card. But
hopefully not, mate. Hopefully they're just giving a bit of a rest. But let's jump into the next match of the weekend. We know that was the most important, but the Rebels Moana, and it was good to see the Rebels get up 26-22 here. I think it should have been a game 26-22.
Yeah, no, I just mean it's funny. I was thinking was it good? Yeah, I was like, well, I mean, I don't really care about the Rebels. I guess it's good to see an Australian team win. But
it was good to see them win. I think they've defensively improved, and a few things have improved for them, in the last couple of weeks. And with Carter Gordon at the helm, I just really want to see. I want to see them performing, better than they did in the start of the year, because I really think he deserved that jersey earlier on. And while he's there, I don't want to be seeing them getting wiped around the paddock. So I think this one was one they had to win. I think they had to beat Mo'unga because they've got only tougher matches from here on out. But it was definitely not a sure thing for them either. Moana have challenged a few sides. I think they beat the Canes, was it? they're actually a pretty solid side when they put things together. Tavatavanawa was the absolute standout. He left me. He's in my fantasy side of the round. Mate, he's in my fantasy side, and he just had me asking, Tavatava, now why can't the rest of my players play like that? He is just such an absolute weapon. Also, we had McClutchy butchering a try to take the game, but good support being thrown behind him from the side and from everyone on their board and everyone talking about it.
And again, that was Carter Gordon really putting in the effort to get across there and make that try-saving tackle to knock the ball out of his hand. So
I feel like it's harsh to say, to be fair. That's what you wrote it. It's to say butchering. He didn't butcher it, mate. That was more Carter Gordon brilliance. But yes, there was talk about, people saying they're backing him and all this stuff. It wasn't his fault. He should have changed the ball to his other arm. Don't get me wrong. That was his mistake. But man, that was good from Carter Gordon.
You're right. Now, butcher is probably a harsh word for just for getting to change hands. It's not like there was a pass there he didn't throw. So no, you're right. That's a bit harsh. And given that I love McClutchy as well, it's very harsh for me. But no, great work from Carter Gordon. And no, it was an awesome game. I mean, Tavatavanawa, we could talk about him all pod. It was very difficult for me because I love watching the guy play, and I was up against him in fantasy this week. I knew it was not going to bode well for me, but God, he's so good. Just a force to be reckoned with, really. So
you're not gonna verse him for the rest of the year, mate, because he is staying in my side whether he's playing or not. So don't you worry about it,
mate. He reminds me of like I've said, the closest thing that I can think of is Joshua Tuiasoba, but kind of Nadolo, just the peak Nadolo, that wrecking ball. Speaking of Nadolo coming back. But
I feel more. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about him, but I feel more Tuiasoba than Nadolo, and I don't know whether
more Tuiasoba.
The stockiness and his agility is a little bit different to say Nadolo. He's got a little bit more footwork on him, a few different things like that. He can beat you in many different ways. Where Nadolo pretty much ran over you. Yes, he was quite a skilled player, and I mean. Spoiler, I don't know if we're going to talk about it later, but Nadolo's coming to the Waratahs next year, so how exciting is that?
He's coming home.
But yeah, he's only going to be 35, but he can play some good game time for us. I'll take it. Look,
if he's starting for the Tars, I'll still be picking him up for my fantasy team. I'll tell you that much. But anyway, look, you're right. We should push. Now, well done to the Rebels. And the last game of the round was the Brumbies, and as you said, the absolute shellacking of the Hurricanes, 42-25. Just nyap the Brums, mate. They were absolutely clinical. I mean, look, we think the Reds it's been harsh for the Reds to lose the first two games. They have looked really, really good, but the Brums have just kind of looked like the complete package and so consistent in their selections across the board, but just consistency in performance and in game plan. They do the same thing every week and do it well. So it was really awesome.
Yeah. That was one of the things. The Reds really adapted their game plan this week and looked to the boot a whole lot more and really tried to adapt differently to this game. And maybe there was a little bit of a necessity there without James O'Connor controlling them around the paddock. But Brumbies make minor tweaks, minor changes. But the big thing, you touched on it, is consistency of selection. And that's a really, really big thing. I was going to talk about a little bit later on, maybe in the back end of this pod, that the Aussie sides are sticking and picking a little bit more than these Kiwi sides. And that's one of the big differences here. That cohesion's a big factor. Whether you're the Crusaders and you're bringing in All Blacks and swapping All Blacks, it still changes that consistency of your side. And I think the Brumbies are really nailing that. And they've got the likes of Alaalatoa coming back, spoiler alert. But they're just in a really good place at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a couple more rolling maul, not a couple, but another rolling maul try. Nice Lonergan getting in there, getting it done. But it seems like it doesn't matter who's wearing the number 2 jersey for the Brumbies. You kind of have them down for a try, like for at least one try each week. So,
agree.
Yeah, no, good to see. But good to see them keep the pedal on the metal. And the Hurricanes did get some points on the board, but the Brumbies just kept it going all the way to the end of the 80, which is the most important thing that Aussie teams have to do against the Kiwis. So, that was really good.
Hey, let's jump into the fantasy man of the week.
Yep.
We've already touched on Timothy and Tavatavanawa. 90 points. He had a try, 104 meters of 14 runs, 12 tackle busts. He had one play where he got 5 tackle busts and he went back looking for the same people to bump him off again. It was really, really entertaining. He had 3 offloads, surprisingly no line breaks, because once he got through and was almost gets through the game line, he turned around to find someone else to run into, and I still loved it.
I think it's because they swarmed him, mate. When they saw the ball was coming anywhere near him, they thought the only way we're getting this bloke down is by at least 4 of us getting there. You know what I mean?
Well, let's all try to be speed humps and slow him down as much as we can. That's what it was. The notable mentions, do you want to take us through those?
Yeah, sure. So we had Dylan Peach, 77 points. That first try for the Tars, incredible, awesome line. And he had to be kind of co-man of the match. I think it was him and Gamble or something for that Tars Crusaders game. He was awesome, Dylan Peach. Probably one of the best performances we've ever seen in Super Rugby. Then we had
if you listen to the Pick and Drive pod, they were talking about, he was sort of saying that he's taken a little bit of time to actually get used to the physicality in Super Rugby, because it is quite different to sevens, and now he's finding he can play his actual game, where he was just trying to adapt to that before.
That's interesting, actually, because I always thought he was one of the more physical sevens players. Like, you know how there's sevens got players who are there to hit people, and there's sevens players who are there just to run around and score tries. Like, he always seemed like one of the sevens players there to hit people. So, no, that's a good point, though. And look, other honourable mentions, we had Samasoni Takiaho with 69 points.
Do it justice.
Dinner for 2. There you go, Nels. You can't ever.
Yeah. Well, that too. But I also meant Takiaho. You know, you get behind it, but yeah, dinner for 2. I wrote that in the brackets for you as well, mate.
And of course, it wouldn't be a week without mentioning Humbosi, 65 points. The Jet Shoes down the sideline, bagged himself another try, and Isaac Fines, who just I think he got a try assist. Definitely didn't score a try, but just like was involved in everything. I think he made like 90 passes or something, which is quite a lot for a halfback. So he was literally
especially for a halfback not necessarily known for those passes.
Yeah,
you know
what I mean? That likes to run the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely big for him.
It just means he was involved in everything the Force did, basically.
Yeah. Getting second touches and stuff. But Reece Marshall was our super sub, 42 points for the Highlanders. I think that's a couple of weeks in a row we're getting the Highlanders super sub. So maybe if you don't have any starters, just pick a benchy from the Highlanders. But that was quite a good match for him. I think he scored a try when he came on as well. And the Captain Mud Award, Cargie.
Captain Muds, Sammy Penny, Finau, minus 16 points. Can't remember what he did.
Pretty mud.
Did he get a yellow card? Can't remember.
I think he might have actually been on the bench to start, was he?
He was on the bench.
Yeah, he started on the bench and he came on and got red carded. So he made a big 4 points before getting his card. And he was on there for 10 minutes. So he wasn't really lighting it up, but then got red carded.
Probably a case of another tall man just not getting down, which is what they seem to really be cracking down on, all the locks and those tall back rowers not getting their height down. But look, we'll get onto that in the main course. A few players coming back from their red cards. So let's do it. Let's get to the main course. So Super Rugby Pacific round 12, kicking us off on Friday evening. We have the Blues and the Rebels. So as you touched on before, it was good for the Rebels to get a win. Although I forgot to say as well, apart from the Rebels getting a win against Moana, they were definitely in the game against the Crusaders. You know what I mean? Like, again, that was another game that I thought was going to be a blowout, but it wasn't. So here's the next, we have to say, greatest test with the Blues, top of the table, top Kiwi team at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna have to see how this one goes. We don't really have any injuries or players returning, I think, for this one, but definitely some changes to lineups. And we're doing this, of course, the casualty ward. We've already had a few people asking for the casualty ward. It should be out maybe later tonight or early tomorrow morning. Harry, of course, our hashtag Super Rugby physio, is just absolutely swamped this week, chucking a couple of weddings in there and whatnot. And we'll get to that. But anyway, the Blues and Rebels. Nels, do you want to take us through some of the team changes?
Yeah, look, well, let's jump into the Blues. We've got Jordan Lay coming in for Alex Hodgman. We've got a complete lock change. So we've got Big Sauce, one we were talking about, maybe would get some more time in the locks.
Particularly now
and James
Tucker is back.
Exactly. That's why we were hinting that we thought it was going to happen. And James Tucker coming in for Luke Romano and Sam Darry. Sam Darry drops to the bench for them. We've got Hoskins Satutu coming back into that 8 jersey. Anton Segner had a very quiet game, but I still think a player with a big future ahead of him. But great to have Hoskins Satutu back into that side. Stephen Perifetta, the Pera franchise, comes into the 10 jersey. Bodie Barrett out of the side. We've got Mark Talea coming in on the right wing, I think, for AJ Lamb as well. And that's just a handful of changes, but a lot of them are bringing back, first choices or the preferred choices out of what's there available, except for maybe Bodie Barrett.
Yeah, and another one, coming back in is Rieko Ioane. So most of these are All Black rest weeks. So Hoskins, Rieko coming back from All Black rest weeks, and most of the guys out are going to have All Black rest weeks. So Alex Hodgman, Bowden Barrett, etc. But so look, the Blues have a pretty set, like they know who their starting side is, and their back line, for example, this is it, except for Bowden Barrett. And then you'd say perhaps it's a battle between Zahn Sullivan or Stephen Pera franchise for that fullback jersey, but certainly shored up with a hell of a centre pairing and some wingers. Caleb Clark, Mark Talea on the wings, and then Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Rieko Ioane in the centres. Just that is delicious right there. And it is. Of course, Bowden Barrett and Finlay Christie, an all black half pairing. So,
it's just, I feel like it's what you expect from the Blues, is just to have weapons all over the paddock. They're going, where can we put this weapon in our back line? That's how they work. They don't go, who's our best fly half, who's our best, and they go, what jersey do you want, Mr. Weapon? And then they just fill it out. It's like they're picking sides. Like the coach goes, I'll pick you, I'll pick you, I'll pick you. No thoughts about where they go. And then just put them all on the paddock and just see how it pans out. And to be fair, it's panning out pretty well.
That's it, right? And they know that everyone wants to live in Auckland, in New Zealand. So they just hold that over everyone. But look, and sometimes what has let them down has been the forward pack, but certainly not. They figured out that they needed to get pretty much all the All Blacks hookers in the country. So they've got a whole bunch of them that they just rotate. Kurt Eklund's been an absolute revelation for them. I will be the first to put my hand up and say I was skeptical. I didn't really see that much potential in him, but he has been incredible. Harry and
I have rated him for a while, but he's definitely been a real strength for them.
That's true. That's because all I wanted was Asafa Mua to move up to Auckland and start in this jersey every week, instead of being behind Dane Coles. But look, their back row, right? Akira Ioane, Hoskins Satutu, 2 All Blacks. Dalton Papali'i. What am I?
Papali'i.
How am I even overlooking probably the starting 7?
Yeah, probably the form 7 in New Zealand. People aren't going to like it. There's just definitely a lot of Kane fans out there, and that's fair enough. You can be fans, but you're wrong. Papali'i is the best 7 currently on form in my eyes. If we're looking at form and form alone, Kane has different leadership qualities. But it's a very, very formidable side. And yes, there's a few changes, but they're going to walk into this one big favourites. If we look at the Rebels, they also have decided that they're not going to, keep their side from last week. And they've made a few changes. They've been forced 1 or 2, but they bring in Matt Gibbon and Poni Fa'aumausiili onto the props with Cameron Orr and Kobus Inloff. And just moving to the bench.
Just on that, mate, Pone Fa'aumausiili, like, holy dooly. Did you take a look at that bloke when he ran out in the field? He has never looked in such good shape, and somehow he's gotten even bigger. He's gotten bigger, but without getting fatter. Like he is just. It looks like he should be in the strongman competition or in a UFC or in the bloody WWE or whatever. Like he's absolutely shredded.
He's a prop, and he's about the size of Nadolo. So he's a big boy, Nadolo on the wing. But no, he's like 130 kilos. And he's a couple centimeters off 2 meters. So he is a humongous human being. And it was really good to see him back on the paddock and love to see him get a start because he's in the reckoning for the Wallabies at the moment with Taniela Tupou got a big question mark on him. So Allan Alaalatoa is coming back, but there's definitely a available spot there. HTH is the other name. But
and we wouldn't be doing it justice whilst he's not in the conversation for the Wallabies. Caboose Eloff has been the form tight head prop in the Australian Conference. Maybe even in Super Rugby, dare I say it.
How far off is he being available for Australia? He was playing for the Rebels in 2019, so he might be available. No, he won't be available. 2021, 22, 23.
I don't know, but I talked about how big Pone Famasili is looking, and it's like he's replacing a bloke who's already enormous. And Eloff is just, I think, all this starting time under his belt, he's just grown so much in confidence, and he's bagged so many tries this year, Eloff. So formidable tight heads for them, but exciting to see Pony get a start and to see what he can do. So, do you want to take us through a few more of the positional changes, and then we'll talk about the matchup?
Yeah, we've got Rob Leota shift from lock into the number 8 jersey, replacing Wells. We've got Josh Cannondale filling that vacant lock jumper left by that shift for Leota. We've got Power coming in for James Tuttle, who I think's been really quite good for them in that 9 jersey. I think Tuttle is out of the squad completely maybe this week. Stacey Ely shifts one in from the 13th to the 12th.
on the bench. So,
yeah. There you go. Good research there. And Ray Nu'u obviously is absent after trying to kill another man. And that means we've got Lucas Ripley shifting into that 13 jersey, which is, for me, preferable than shifting Kellaway into the centres like they did previously. We've also got Glenn Viahu shifting to the bench with George Worth coming in to replace him on the left wing.
Absolutely. And look, out of the entire side of these two sides, who do you think is licking their lips the most at their matchup this weekend? I'll give you 2 seconds to think of it, and then I'm going to tell you.
It's Ioane, mate.
It's Rieko Ioane, mate.
Oh, man, I got you.
Did you? Oh, okay. There you go. Sorry, I've just ignored you. But no, Rieko looking at the youngster Lucas Ripley as just some fresh prey, basically. And he's going to... I'm excited having Rieko in my fantasy team this week because this is going to be the week where he decides to run every time rather than showing his new ball playing skills.
Lucas Ripley's played a couple times.
He has
earlier this year, but I mean it's a pretty tough ask. To be honest, he's a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
he's a 20-year-old, and he's going to have a tough day in the office. And I mean, the talk's going to be, can he shut down, one of the world's best outside centres and one of the only players locked into the All Black squad. So he's got a tough ask, but good on him. Hopefully, he gives it a crack.
True. To be fair for him, he's got nothing to lose really. Like if he has a shocker, everyone's going to say, "Well, you were playing Rieko Ioane." If he has a great game, then he'll be the talk of the town. You know what I mean? Like it's actually good for him, I suppose. But
can I tell you his stats for the year? So he's made 9 tackles and he's missed 4.
Okay.
So he's got a 69 dinner for 2% tackle rate. So if you're doing that against Rieko, you're in trouble because he's going to be running at you much harder than most others.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it. But look, I mean, what excites me about this, I'd like to see they really like the double jackals there in the back row, and I think the reason that they've been picking them, so Hardwick and Wilkin, is because they've both been playing so well. It's kind of too hard to drop one of them. Personally, I think I would have liked to have seen them try to match up against the forces of Akira and Hoskins Tutu with maybe chucking a Leota at 6 and Tamati Ioane at 8. Fight fire with fire.
I said the same thing to Harry that just get Ioane on, and he is not of that opinion. And that's surprising that he's not, because I've been the one saying I'm excited by the Wilkin Hardwick combination, the 2 sevens, being a 7 myself, mate. You need to get as many of us on the paddock as possible. But I think when you have those 2 pilferers that can also rush out and make, a hit in D, it makes the role for the other player that much easier. If you've got, Hardwick shooting out of the line to make the tackle and Wilkin going in for a pilfer, or vice versa, if they work in tandem, it really just, times their power by, much more than 2. It's 3-4 times as easy, I reckon, to get those pilfers.
Yeah, I agree, and I think also if you're the other team, then normally if there's just one of those jackals, you can kind of keep an eye on where they are on the field. So if they're on the other side of the field, you can say, okay, maybe we don't just throw as many players into the breakdown over here. Whereas if you've got 2 of them, you've got Wilkin and Hardwick just covering the whole field, you kind of feel like you might need to commit that extra player in every breakdown that they're near. But I don't know. I mean, I just very simply, I think that the Blues have 2 Ioanis. I think you want to at least roll one out if you've got one available. Just let's in simplest terms.
Definitely fair. Tell me one Ioani you've seen play footy that's not good. Digby's another one.
I can't tell you.
It's not possible.
But no, look. All right. So I think I realised we probably didn't even do it. Is this the first? This is the first game. No, we haven't got to the first game. So all right. Tip for this game. I mean, look. I think the Blues will be certainly noting that the Crusaders didn't walk over the Rebels. That the Rebels then got a win last week and were able to match up in physicality against a very, very big Moana Pacifica side. So I think the Blues are not going to go into this like they did last week against the Force, thinking we're going to walk over this team. But they have rolled out a lot of their big guns. Yes, no Bowden Barrett, but I mean, they para franchise is certainly no slouch. So I think the Blues are going to come out absolutely firing from the get-go. And if the Rebels can't contain them within the first 20, I think this game could blow out for the Blues. So that's what I think is going to happen. So I'll go ahead and say I think the Blues are going to win this by 20 points. So big one from me.
Yeah, I put my score in here before their last matchup for the Rebels, and I was about to change it, and I thought, no, I think it's probably fair. I think the Rebels will fight and keep in this one early on in the match. Maybe they slip up just before the half, and they go into the second half, a bit over a try down, and the Blues will probably have the ability to score a couple late tries. So for me, doing the math, cracking the calculations out, I reckon the Blues are going to win this one by 23.
23. All right, perfect. Excellent.
Yep.
All right. You want to take us to the next one?
Yeah, let's start off with the Reds versus Highlanders. We've got a few people missing. We've got a new injury to Tani Alaalatoa, which is quite a concerning one. He looks like he's not going to be back at any point in Super Rugby, more than likely, but they are getting second opinions from people that care less about his welfare.
I think they couldn't generate enough ice to cool his calves down fast enough. Like the ice just kept melting, and the ice machines ran out. They couldn't cope with the demand for how big those calves are. So,
well, they were looking for compression stockings, and they ended up getting those chest ones, and they put that around his calf. So they still managed to do that. There's that positive there, but there's also Christian Leo Willie. He got injured, as far as you're talking about, mate.
He did. So sometime in the first half. I actually don't remember what the injury was, but he went off. So
Mm-hmm. He's just a little Willie. He's not too tough. In terms of players,
can I say I like the look of him though? I like the look of him. He's another big unit. He's a youngster, and every article you ever look about this guy just talks about how he's a dentistry student, and I thought that was pretty cool. He was just saying he had to pick something to do at uni, and he was like, "There's just no Samoan dentists, so it's very underrepresented." So he was like, "You know what? I'm going to become a dentist." And I was like,
"Good on him!
Exactly,
good on him, mate." And he's going to knock your teeth out on the field, and then he's going to fix them up, because he does look like a threatening man.
That is, he definitely gets that joke every time, in terms of he hits someone, then hands them a business card, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely. He's got his own mouth guard. He pulls out with his details on it and gives it to them.
Keep it. I've got a few,
Yeah. In terms of returning, there's a couple of good ones here. We've got Geordie Pataya, Juliasi Vunivalu both returning for the Reds. And we've got Josh Dixon returning after his red card ban early on.
And can I say, I know you're going to get to this in the we're going to talk about it in the dessert, but I was going to say, not to do with, obviously there's been a lot of red cards, but I don't know if we're going to talk about this in dessert or not. But interestingly, this will come up as a theme for a lot of players returning through all of these previews, is that players are coming back like a week earlier than their sentence. And the reason for this is that, so Dixon, for example, was given a 3-week ban, and he's back in he's only served 2 weeks, and this is the third week, and he's coming back. And it's because all of these players, they're allowing if they do a tackle technique course about not tackling the head, essentially. I forget what the course was called, but if they do this course, then they're allowed to come back a week early, take a week off their sentence. What do you think about this?
Mate, I'll sum it up for you. Ray Nu'u got done for a head high, and he was dropped from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. And his first week back, he took someone's head off, and now apparently he's only out for 4 weeks, rather than the entry level or mid level of 6 weeks they thought he deserved, because he is young. Who cares how young he is, right? He has a clear history of this. The week before that he played, he did this. And they gave him a week off. If they didn't give him that week off, who did he hit? Liliafana. Liliafana would still be alive, mate. He got his head taken off. And, you know, for what? Because this guy did a little course on the weekend to say, don't tackle someone around the head. And he goes, okay. And then he did the same thing anyway. Okay, I won't do it. And then he did it. So it's absolutely ridiculous.
It is a bit crazy. So yeah, sorry, I just thought I'd mention it then, because there's quite a few players coming back a week early, and it does feel a little silly, to be frank. But particularly Ray.
I mean,
it's crazy.
It's been proven to be pointless. That's as simple as that. It's been proven that it's pointless.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, do you want to take us through the changes to the lineup? Sorry, I think you were doing that, and I just interrupted you. But yeah. No, that's all right, mate. We've got the Reds. We've got Feo Fotoweka coming in at tight head, with Albert Ane getting called in to be the reserve tight head prop, with Thor and baby Thor out injured. So I don't know what Thor names we can give these two, but they're still big boys. So there's going to be a few Thor bodies around the rugby field this weekend. And Albert Ane is a bit of a seasoned player. I think he played for.
He's played plenty, mate. I think he's a hooker / prop, Albert Ane. I'm pretty sure he's played a bit of hooker and staff as well, but he's definitely been around for quite some time. We've got Lukan Solakay-Lotto coming back, starting. You were saying looking bigger and fitter than ever.
Yeah, no, just really, I think my take on this is that he's committed, or has been told that he's a lock, and he's not going to none of this number 6 jersey business, because he really has. It's essentially the biggest his legs have ever looked, is what my takeaway. So I really liked it, because he was already a really strong, powerful bloke, but just put on a bit more size. So it was awesome.
Yep, yeah, it's good to see him back finally in that starting jersey. We've also, that then relegates Blythe to the bench. In terms of other changes, we've got Seru Uru coming back onto that 6 jersey, pushing Angus Scott Young back into the bench. There's just such a competitive back row at the Reds, and it's a really exciting one to see. They're struggling to fit these guys into their match day squad, and they've still got, you know, Wright, who's out injured, Liam Wright, who's captained them and been a part of the Wallaby squad as well. There's just a lot of depth there in this Reds back row.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, you look at it as sometimes like it's obviously really good to have such intense competition and not be able to fit everyone into your team. But at the same time, you look at it as is this a problem? Because then someone might leave and things like that. But no, you really need, I mean, to be successful, as the Kiwis prove time and time again, you need to have that, you know, 2 or 3 levels deep of these players all contesting for those positions. So
yeah, people talk about this being a short comp and not needing the same depth as, you know, the premiership and things, but I mean, it's brutal. So there's injuries left, right, and centre, and it's been on show in the last few weeks how important it is to have this depth. So they've still got Lawson Crichton in that 10 jersey. The reason why we're mentioning this, obviously, with Pataya back, there was the thought process that maybe they could shift Jock Campbell, who earlier on the year was used in that kind of 10 jersey, to be a bit of an option there for them. But instead, they've decided they're going to stick with Lawson Crichton, the young guy, and which is a nice thing to see, just to back him.
Yeah, no, I thought he looked really good. And I think, yeah, we all thought that in pre-season they'd kind of shaped Jock Campbell up as the backup 10. But also, I think twofold here, Jordan Batai coming back, we assumed he was going to go straight back into the 15 jersey, because not only has he looked so good there, but obviously all the talk of him, you know, possibly looking for a Wallabies jersey in that position. So that was interesting. I think they must have liked what Jock was offering.
Yeah, look, I don't think Jock had his best game at 15. Maybe they're thinking a little bit about being less disruptive to this side, bringing in someone on the wing to replace Dungunu, who has been out of form. Doesn't seem as disruptive to shifting your fullback to fly half, a new player on at fullback, you know, making those sorts of changes. The wings are definitely quiet. The back 3 were quiet for the Reds the last couple of weeks. But Jock Campbell's such an exciting player.
For sure. And I see you've lost all willpower to mention how is Daugunu not starting again, because it sucked all the energy out of you over the whole season. But, you know, I've put the point here again saying What has he done to piss off Brad Thorne? That's all I know. What has he done?
Well, I mean, it's not something, you're confused by. It's something you don't know. None of us know. But look, he's just not in good enough form, and he makes too many errors. I think that's what it comes down to. He had another chance on the weekend. He played 80 minutes, and he was better in ball in hand than the week before. He had a tackle bust and an offload, 44 metres, but he missed a few tackles. He always, makes a couple errors. And when you've got the depth in the outside backs as the Reds have, you just don't need to stand for it. And sadly, I've said it a couple of weeks ago, we could be seeing the decline of chances here for Dungunu. And I know he really committed to the Reds and the Wallabies and didn't want to head offshore when he had big money. And it hurts to say, I mean, he maybe should have taken that money. It does hurt to say, because I was super excited when he decided to stay. That's
true. And look, I should preface this by saying that, I mean, if I had to choose two starting wingers out of Jordan Petaia, Suliasi Vunivalu and Dungunu, I am picking Petaia and Vunivalu. But it's just...
But you throw Petaia at fullback.
But I would put Petaia at fullback and then have Dungunu on the left wing. But yeah, it will be sad. I mean, one of my favourite quotes from David Rennie was about Dungunu, just saying that he could beat you in a phone book. That's still, to this day, one of my favourite descriptions. But interesting one. And Josh Fluke, another result is Josh Fluke's been dropped completely out of the 23. So
look, it's fair. He played well early on, but he's not put himself ahead of Dungunu in his recent chances either. So I'm happy to see that Dungunu is the one getting that chance there.
Yep, sweet. All right, well, I'll take us through some of the Highlanders. Highlanders, very simple. They got a win, and so very reticent to make any changes to that winning formula. They've only made a few little ones. So Ethan de Groot, the front rower, rotation continues. He's back into starting in Loosehead, with Daniel Leonard-Brown dropping to the bench. Liam Coltman back into start at hooker. I'm not sure if he had a All Black rest week or just a rest week, Highlanders rest week, but he's back in and starting. Reece Marshall, who, as Nelson mentioned, has been, or whatever the Highlanders backup hooker has seemed to be our super sub every week. So he's on the bench again and could be good to come on for a try. But look, otherwise, Josh Dixon straight in for Sam Caird. So thank you, Sam Caird, and back to the not even the bench for you. Dicko's back. So those are two big ins for the Highlanders. I think it must be said. Liam Coltman and Josh Dixon absolutely core to particularly their set piece. Josh Dixon, of course, calling the lineouts and receiving most of it. So that'll be good. And then, look, the Highlanders have also gone for, I don't know whether it's by necessity or it kind of feels like it's by necessity. I've gone for the double jackal in the back row there. So they've got James Lynchies and Billy Harmon starting the 6 and 7 jersey. And so, that might be just because Shannon Frizzell's gone, is out injured. Christian Leo Willie's out injured. Gareth Evans is out injured. They do still have Hugh Renton on the bench, but they're kind of running out of 6s and 8s.
Yeah, look, it sounds like it's forced, to be fair, but also both these players could hold down that 7 jersey. So it's good to see both Harmon and Lynches getting, another crack at it, both on the field together. And, as some of those other players trickle back in, then, this is a fight for those two to really take that jersey. Yes, Lynches is the co-captain, sharing that with Smith. But the fact that he's co-captain as well and he's not the out-and-out captain shows that, he's not definitely locked in. And Billy Harmon did take over him, last year. So it is a good little competition between the two of them.
For sure. And look, my other hypothesis was just that now that Marino Mikaeli-2 is just back, he's playing so well that he's basically a 6 and an 8 and 1, so they're happy to just have 2 jackals out there. But that's that could be my fantasy bias coming in.
Probably. And look, there's no changes to this back line for the Highlanders, which is a good thing to see, just a little bit more of that consistency, which means we've got Aaron Smith, Mitch Hunt. In the centres, we've got Paya and Tumunga Jensen, who's an absolute weapon. We've got Scott Gregory and Sam Gilbert on the wings, the SGs, and we've got Connor Garden Bashop at fullback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there'd been a little bit of doubt with Mitch Hunt over the last couple of weeks, but he had a good game last week. And I think they're just backing him. Connor Garden Bashop as well came back, had a good game last week. And and they seem to like the wing. So
their issues have been a little bit around consistency of some of these players. So I think picking and sticking at the moment is the right choice. They've just chopped and changed far too much throughout this season. I think that's probably the single worst thing that's happening at this franchise, that they're not actually just sticking with some of these players. So to see an unchanged backline this week is a really exciting thing if you're a Highlanders fan.
Absolutely. All right. Well, look, how do you see this game going, I guess? The Reds, I would say, have certainly gotten stronger in terms of players
Tupou
coming back for them. So no Tupou, but I just mean if you're pitting Pataya and Vunivalu up against Gregory and Gilbert, I know who I'm backing. That's just for me. But,
yeah, that's fair. And then throwing Dungurnu on the wing, off the bench to run at him as well. But yeah, for me, it almost was a case of, I think it's third time lucky for the Reds. They've been very close the last couple of times against two, what I would say, better sides than the Highlanders. Highlanders definitely not in the best of form. So this is one I think the Reds should be able to take out. I really hope that they don't resort to, let's just kick and hope and really try to play field position, non-stop. Well, I think one of the issues with maybe Crichton's game was probably what he's been told to do, but he didn't really pass that much. He kicked plenty. And Tait McDermott passed far more than he normally does. And it does really change their dynamics. They do have a lot of really solid ball runners out wide, maybe a little bit stronger this week. So try to utilise those guys. Yes, take those kicks when they're on offer, but don't just be, kick happy like we probably saw last week.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, given that, we've talked about it for years, but it hasn't really changed with the Highlanders' DNA in that they're a team that does like to kick quite a lot and to give the opposition the opportunity to run the ball back at them and then create some type of broken play for some counter-attack. But so I think you're right. I think the Reds, particularly having Pataya and Vunivalu back there, they're going to need to run some of these balls back and just have a crack. And I think, the most important thing for the Reds is, I think they will start really strong, hopefully get some points on the board, and then they need to absolutely keep focus, keep discipline, and just keep the pedal to the metal. So I'm not too worried about
this one going.
Well, I was going to say I'm not too worried about the set piece loss with Tupou, but I think the Reds will have too much across the park in this. So I'm going to say the Reds by 12.
Wow. Yeah. Look, I haven't seen the ability from the Reds to put a team to the death, put them to the sword, if they do build that lead. So I think the Highlanders, with that cohesive or slightly more cohesive back line, that they'll stay in this one. But I think, maybe the Reds have enough to get this done. They just have a lot of attacking threat if they can utilise them, which they haven't in recent weeks. So I'm just going to say the Reds are going to sneak home with this one. The Reds are going to win by, I'm going to say 5. I don't want to rely on them to make a kick. I'm going to say the Reds by 5. Okay, one thing that we did last week, Harry and myself, and we haven't done yet in this pod, is who is you think going to be the biggest scorer fantasy-wise this week?
In the game?
We both picked Rieko Ioane for the last one. So let's just assume. So who's going to be the biggest scorer in this one?
In this game or in the round are we talking? Oh, sorry, we both picked Rieko last one. You've got you. Yep. Sorry. This game, well, I kind of feel like I'm really stuck on Jordan Patara of Vunivalu, to be honest with you. But I'm just trying to think if there's anyone else that sticks out. I mean, it could be a Fraser McWright, Harry Wilson, or Mick Ellie 2 type job. But no, look, I'm going to commit. I'm going to go with Vunivalu. This is going to be the game. He's going to deliver bulk points.
I don't mind it at all, mate. Look, these are two wingers that probably aren't most known for their defence, which is a bit harsh. Look, I'm just going to, flip of the coin, mate. I'm going to say something different to you. Although I love and I want to see Vunivalu killing it, I'm going to say Pataya on the left wing running against Gilbert, who I think is the weaker defender of the two.
That's fair. Exactly. I feel the same. It's flip a coin, but I feel like it's one of them. That's what's going to happen. So. Nice one. All right. Well, look, that takes us on to the Saturday games, and we have the Moana Pacifica taking on the world beaters, the Waratahs, New South Wales Waratahs.
World champs?
So, yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Can we call them the world champs? They've pretty much beaten the Crusaders / All Blacks. So it's.
I think so.
Yeah, I like it. And this is at Mount Smart Stadium, so over in New Zealand. and there'll be all the Moana. It'll be good now to have a full crowd, to have the full Moana Pacifica supporters out there, which will be very cool. So, and I think the Blues are over in Perth, so also any of the Auckland-based rugby fans will get out to this game. So should get a good crowd there. And new injuries to report on this one. So Moana, I don't think we have any injuries. Liliafano, who we mentioned, had his head almost taken off by Ray Nu'u. He did actually complete his pass the HIA, come back on and then play the rest of the 80. But I don't think there's any other injuries to report. But again, please check the casualty ward once it gets published. But for the Tars, we have Harry Johnson Holmes. He, I think, is gone for the season, it sounds like.
It sounds like at least the regular season. We did hear some gossip. I'm trying to think off the top of my head straight from his mouth. But yeah, no, he's not looking like he's back either for the season. Might be back in time for the finals, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, nice. We had Hooper's taking the week off for just with concussion, return to play protocols after he almost had his head taken off and did not pass his HIA by Crusaders. Mahe Vailanu, I'm pretty sure he did go off injured.
Look, I just think this is a case of, for some reason, DC going, you know what, I'm just gonna put the shitter player in the lineup again, mate, and just pick an Orden.
Yeah, is it me just saying that he has to be injured because I can't possibly believe that he's not on the bench with Perecki coming back? I think that's it, mate. I think that's it. Even though every single other person than DC, who was the guy that brought Vailanu to this club, he played with him with Gordon, with North. He played with him with the Giltinis,
with the Giltinis, and now he's playing with the Tars. So he knows how devastating Vailanu can be with the ball. And he also knows how bad Horton can throw a line out. And he's still picking Horton on the bench, which is just dumbfounding. It's the one thing I'm confused about.
That's why I'm saying Vailanu must be injured, particularly given how he played last week, because he had an absolute cracker game against the Crusaders.
So good ball in hand.
And lastly, another injury, we had James Ram, who returned for all of about 2 minutes. So he had just come back from being injured all season and looked like he did kind of his ankle and hobbled off after a couple of minutes on the field. So
you've got to feel sorry for him. He's a player we really love. I hate to see him that this is his last year at the Tars. He's turned his back on his fans,
on his Wallabies dreams,
and the Waratahs and his Wallabies dream to head. I think he's got an English cousin's dog walker or something, so he qualifies for them. So hopefully we see him back before the end of the year, but he should have been in one of the starting wing jerseys for most of this year if he wasn't injured.
Or the fullback jersey even, I agree, but definitely.
Yeah, all the fullback jerseys. We've also got the return of Dave Perecki, an exciting one for the Tars, really important one, even though we were talking about how big a loss Vailanu is from how good he played last week.
Yeah, and exactly. Given even how good Vailanu was, Perecki, we were talking after the game saying he's got to be seriously looking at a Wallabies berth just because he's got to be the front-running hooker in Australian rugby at the moment, it feels like. So very exciting to have him back.
In the best form. Yeah,
absolutely.
In terms of the Moana, before we talk about more about Tavatavanawa, the one thing is, like, there's only made one change in this side from last week, which is a good thing. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater or whatever that saying is. Yes, you lost to the Rebels last week, but they do have a threatening side. They've changed Alamanda Matunga for Solomoni Funaki in that 7 jersey. That's the only change, and it's a good thing. I think we talked a little bit about Tawala at fullback, Cargie. You're not convinced he's a fullback at the moment?
Well, look, I was really excited by this positional change last week because I thought, the first couple of games he's played at 12, I thought he's looked really, really good, Danny Tawala, but he does have, he's got a good, supposed to have a good boot on him, although he didn't really exhibit it very much against the Rebels. He had a few shocking kicks, but I don't know. I didn't think he really had that great a game given his first game starting at Super Rugby level at fullback, but it did make me appreciate Will Havili, the missing of Will Havili a little bit. I think he's been a little overlooked, Will Havili, what he brings to that side, and it's pretty easy to do given that you can look at players like Tavatavanawa and Tima Whainganuku and think, so easy to do. But Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm excited that he's getting another crack. So we can see what he can deliver.
Look, it almost feels a case that the centres are stacked for them, and Havili has been a stable. Tuala has been, a stable, quite exciting player at chances. Havili's been stable, but hasn't really let the world set the world alight. So it seems like they've kind of done it to give their best centres a crack somewhere on the field. Danny Tuala has a bit of versatility about him, but you've got the likes of in the centres, Henry Taifu at 12, Leva Amua, both real big threats, ball in hand, 12-13. Taufu has some leadership qualities and has had chances there for them. And then you've got Solomon Kata 2.0 with his long hair filling in on the bench. And he's another really dynamic, exciting player for them.
Yeah, I mean, he came off the bench last week against the Rebels and absolutely killed it. I think he bagged himself a try and just, he's, and he can play wing or centre as well. I think he just can't they can't fit him in. You're right. You're trying to, very difficult with all these awesome players to get them on the field. And, I mean, sometimes we're critical of coaches just putting their best players on the field. Doesn't matter where they can. But in this instance, it kind of feels like, put your best players on the field. They're all awesome. Like just,
The issue is Havili brings that alternative style. They have so many threats ball in hand. Havili really was a well-controlled fullback with his boot. And maybe that's something they need at the moment. Tuala is a game finisher, exciting player. So to me, he doesn't seem like the choice of fullback, but there's nothing wrong with giving him another crack there to see if he can solidify himself, because he is a very exciting player.
That's it. I think you nailed it. Havili just, he's played a lot of his career at 10 and 15, William Havili. And so he just has that game sense, that game vision, and it puts a lot of very good, very important strategic kicks in and things like that. Which Danny Tuala, it sounds like, has played. I think he's played fullback throughout his growing up in his career, and but he's played a lot of centre over the last, I don't know how many years. So anyway, look, exciting to see. Like I said, good to see him have another crack and see what he can do.
And the one game plan, we just tell him, give the ball to Tavatavanawai. That's it. There's no other things you need to think about. If you are in your 22 and you think you need to kick the touch, give it to Tavatavanawai. If you're close to the line and you're going, should we pick and drive, just give it to Tavatavanawai. Like, what do you do off the back of the scrum? Give it to Tavatavanawai. There is no other answer to any question that they can ask. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely. And look, who's he? It's a big ask, Mark. He's up against Mark Nawangani this week. So
Mate, he is going to dominate. Mark Nawangani is not going to have a single missed tackle this week, because he will be out of position like he has been. And Tavatavanawai is going to be strolling down the sideline, looking to bump over Newsom or whoever's playing fullback.
If I was Mark, what I'd do is I'd just, when we get to the change room, I'd actually just put the 11 jersey on and just sneak the 11 jersey on.
So this one fits me better. My defensive ability.
Oh, but anyway, no, looking forward to that.
Mate, that's an exciting battle though. That's two players that can, run hard, ball in hand, and can finish tries. So that's an exciting one in this match. But if we jump across to the Tars, they've lost, the big red musician HJH, but they've also gained Perecki back, as we touched on. We're all confused still about Horton being included in this side, but Archer Holtz, he's a very, very big boy. We saw him on the sideline last week after the match. I think he is evolving into this side and starting to find his feet a little bit. No, I don't think his HJH is very, experienced and been there, done that, where Archer Holtz has not. But he is a player, I think, that does have a future ahead of him. He's not going to be a Bell or a Tupou, but I think he could be quite a good player. So I'm not too disappointed that we get to see him have this crack. And I really hope he stands tall and performs well in this one.
Yeah, and as you said, man, he's massive. He is a really big boy. So
he's at 130 as well.
Yeah, he'd have to be. So no, he'll
a big scrum.
I think he'll be good in the scrums. Exactly. Good in the set piece. He's just not going to offer the same thing HJH does around the park. But but also good to see backing him up with very experienced Ruan Smith, who played a couple little cameos. And look, he's a quality player. I mean, he's a bit of an older codger now. He's been around, played in every team in all of the Australian franchises, as we mentioned before. But no, it's really good to have him to be able to call on him to come in. So
yeah, look, Ryan Smith's 32-year-old, probably covers both props, both sides if you need him. He's one that I would have assumed would have been on the bench right throughout the year above Archer Holmes. So it's an interesting one to see that he'd lost that chance, but he is back. I think he may have had an injury at some point and Holtz remained there, but it's really good to see Ryan Smith get another crack.
To be fair, I'm amazed he's 32. I mean, I'm the same age. I think. I feel like he's like 38 or something. You know what I mean? Just like anyway, it feels like it's been around forever. But
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's all the character that we've seen of him getting punked on social media by Tupou and stuff over the years. He really kind of plays that dad role. It feels like in the last couple of clubs he's been in. So.
He's the old man.
That's it.
We've also got Cridge coming in to start. So Sinclair, the back rower, shifts out of the second row to the bench to cover second row still, but he's been doing pretty well there. He's added a bit of spark to his game, I think, this season, which has been good. But I'm happy to see Cridge get another start. And obviously, there's the big loss of Hooper. But can you talk a little bit more about this back row?
I can. Look, I mean, yeah, it's obviously you can't. It's definitely always a loss when you lose a player like Michael Hooper, but I quite like the look of this back row with Will Harris getting in there at 6, Charlie Gamble or undercover Hooper or Hooper with a Mo at 7.
Detective Hooper,
one of the men in the match from that Crusaders game, and Raboni Warren Voisato at number 8.
Voisato. If you just learn how to actually pronounce certain things, you'll get it.
Look, I think we've established
just a bit of homework.
Yeah, anyway. But Raboni, I'm excited by him. He did he got a negative fantasy score last week, but that's because he got, I think he copped quite a few penalties and got a card ultimately actually we questioned that card. It was about him being like in an offside position to make a try-saving tackle.
Yeah, I think I chatted to a few people, Harry being one, who watched it on the TV, who said, I mean, the Crusaders had illegally broke up and
it was a truck and trailer,
constructed in truck and trailer or something along those lines anyway. So to give him a card, it seems really quite unfair. But he has a big future, almost made the Japanese side as we've touched on. So it's good to see him get another crack there at that 8 jersey, and it will be interesting to see how Harris pairs up with him.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Is I like the balance. I really like the balance, and I really don't mind seeing Harris at 6. I mean, I could see Harris. This is looking too far into the future, but Wallabies back row of Harris. In the days of sometime past Michael Hooper, but a Harris, Harry Wilson, and Fraser McWright, that under 20s Wallabies back row.
How good! But if you're doing the under 20s back row, you shift Harry Wilson to number 6, mate. Will Harris to number 8, like I had back in the day.
Top priority. That's true. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was when they played under 20s. It was clearly better.
It must be noted, Will Harris held out Harry Wilson for the number 8 jersey.
Yeah, that's true. And we'll mention it regularly. But also, I mean, I think that's all the changes for these sides.
That is. The back line's the same. Tait Edmed had an awesome game, still holding out Ben Donaldson on the bench. And as we discussed before, they're not going to swap them until he has a bad game, I guess.
Mate, Tait Edmed was on radio in Queensland, and I saw a post pop up, and I wrote, how good Champagne Tain is getting on. And I listened to the radio, and they go, mate, they call you Champagne Tain. And Tain goes, I've never heard it. No, I made it up. I just made it up. But they were then raving about the nickname. So I'm hoping that sticks, Champagne Tain.
Oh, God. You're everywhere, Nels. There's no one can go on any sort of program without getting a hashtag from you somewhere,
Hey, that's the whole point of what I'm doing, mate.
I feel like I'm outing you here today, but I think Nabung was prompting you on looking up what your screen time was on your phone, mate. And what do we say? Your daily average was about 4 hours just on Twitter, probably. Is that it, mate?
No, I must leave it aside. Just sitting on Twitter.
I can tell you don't want to repeat the number because you're worried that your other half, your partner's nearby. So that's all good. We'll move on. But look, the Tars game, I think very simple for the Tars. What are they got to do in this game against Moana Pacifica? And first and foremost, it's exactly what they did against the Crusaders, which is win the front up battle. Just win that physicality battle. And if you can do it against the Crusaders, you can do it against Moana Pacifica. I know Moana have some really big boppers, but look, you can absolutely do that to them. And I think if the Tars get away to a fast start, it's game over for Moana Pacifica.
I think you can sum it up with one hashtag: Tar tough. You know, Tar tough. It's about making those contacts and winning those physical battles, but also getting up off the ground to be ready to do it again. And that's, you know, a real character of this side. There are a lot of threats in this Moana side. So you expect to be able to make a hit and go, yeah, that's it. You're dreaming. You're going to have to get back onto your feet and be ready to go again, because there's a lot of threats right around the paddock for Moana. And with the likes of Lealiafano controlling them, you know, they are going to be a massive threat. You can't keep the ball in play when you're going for your kicks. We've lost, you know, Harris as that left foot boot at the back as well. So maybe you can try to target Tuala a little bit and try to bring him forward and put a bit of pressure on him. But I'd be very nervous about keeping the ball in play if they're going to fling the ball out to Tavatava Nawai or Whainganuku.
I agree. And so for this one, I was going to say, what was the game? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? One team very successfully did not allow the ball to get Tavatava Nawai. Do you remember that? Was it last week? Not last week. Was it the week before or the week?
I can't remember how long ago. It was a couple of weeks back though. Yeah. They did shut that structure down through the centres. I mean, when you've got Leva Amua looking to run the ball a lot, Henry Taifu ready and willing to run it. If you've got that kind of umbrella defence and you've got that pressure a little bit out wide, which, you know, is probably pushing off Perecki, it does cut off that pass. And those players, yes, Henry Taifu's got a good pass on him, but if you've got the ability to run like he does, you sit there and go, I'm just gonna run it. I'm not gonna push that pass, and you stop the ball getting out wide. So it's definitely something the Tars should be doing.
Agreed. All right, this one, how do you see it going? I've been putting my picks in first. Give us yours, Nels.
I think I did the first one, but I'm going to say the Tars to win this one by 12. I think Moana will stay in this one. The Tars may be a little bit of a lead. Moana find their way to keep in it, and then maybe the Tars can finish it off with a try late. All
right, and on top of that, who do you see? Who's your fantasy man of the match in this game? Are you just going to pull the trigger on Tavatava?
No, I'm not. I'm not actually. The defense maybe can threaten him a little bit and just shut him down a little bit better than, you know, last week. I'm going to do what I see as the low-hanging fruit, and that's Dave Perecki. This Moana Pacifica side cannot stop a driving maul.
Yeah.
So if I was the Tars, every week a hooker scores a try against Moana. So if not 2 or 3. So for me, Perecki back. Yes, there's a few changes, but they've gone a very chunky, big, physical forward pack. So I think, you know, that could be hinting a little bit at, you know, the driving more as well. So it will be a real threat for the Tars.
I like it. I'm going to go. I can't believe I'm going to be. It's probably just because of last week's game, but I'm going to be even more optimistic than Nels. I'm going to say Tars by 15. I just think, as I said, if they get away to a fast start, I think it's going to be hard to pull them back in if when they get their tails up. And in being different in terms of fantasy man of the match, I'm going to say Jake Gordon. I'll throw him out there. Just as you said, very big Moana pack, and I think Jake Gordon will be licking his lips, looking for holes to run through. So I think we can see lots of runs and line breaks from him, and maybe bag himself a try. So
and just being noticing how long this pod's gone. I think we're touching on an hour 20 or something like that. So that we might pump through these last three here. The next matchup is the Chiefs versus the Brumbies. In terms of new injuries, you said Sam Cane may not play due to the birth of his first baby.
That's
having
true.
a baby.
His first child, yeah. So that's kind of if that happens, he's not playing. If it doesn't, then he'll be playing. That's what they've said.
Yep. Yeah, it's fair enough. It's a home. He gives him the ability to toss that up. We've got Ateni Nanai Saturo returning, Emoni Nara on the bench. We've got Allan Alaalatoa on the bench.
We don't have the team lineup for the Chiefs yet, do we?
We do, mate. We do.
Have I not even seen it? God,
mate, you just don't pay attention. But if you read the notes, I've got.
I was going to in grievances bring up. Can the Chiefs be the only? How are they the only team that haven't given the lineup? But all right,
mate, they're late. They're late, so we can still grieve on them. But we've got Alaalatoa and then Frost back on the bench. So in terms of the Chiefs, their changes, they have named Kane at 7 with Boshier out of the matchday squad completely. So my guess would be, Kane, if he's out, Boshier that comes straight back in. To me, I think that's what the change would be. Yeah. Rather than bringing on, Semi Finau or someone like that into that 7 jersey. Mm-hmm. Tapaya's back into the 12 jersey, forcing Poi Hippie onto the bench. And that's Turo back to start with Naroa on the bench. Tia was also replaced with Trask. Mm-hmm. I'm not happy not seeing Naroa starting, especially for Trask. He's in my fantasy side and I've been holding this bloke for months. So I'm disappointed about that. But Trask has offered, a different role and a different ability at that 15 jersey to Tia and Naroa. He's more of that 10 playing 15 than, the out and out kind of threatening 15 that you see of Naroa and Tia. Against the Brumbies who, set piece are really, really good, structured really, really well. I think they've got Trask there to try and play the field position a little bit more. Make sure they're not playing footy in their own 22 and trying to be, playing in the right parts of the paddock. So to me, that's what, Trask inclusion means.
Absolutely. The Brumbies are not a team that you want to be in the wrong part of the field against. Yeah. No,
definitely not. So I think that's the big thing to take out of this side. There's a lot of, you've got Peter Wakula, Luke Jacobson, really, really strong players in the back row with Sam Cane if he's there. That's a massive threat and maybe a combination where the Chiefs can get up on the Brumbies. Yes, Valentini scored potentially one of the best tries ever by a back rower on the weekend. He won't be able to do that again. No one else can. And Pete Samu out of form and Jerome Brown playing quite well. But that is definitely, the spot on this field that I think the Chiefs have a real strength to them where they can outclass the Brumbies.
Absolutely. I think you've nailed it on the head there. Did you mention the Brumbies, Alaalatoa coming back? Captain coming back. So, I think, look, in terms of just talking strategy for this one, the Brumbies are going to keep doing exactly what they've been doing, which is get in the right parts of the field and, set. It really doesn't matter. It's not just all about driving mauls and set piece now. They have really good set backline moves and their execution has been so good. So it's for the Chiefs to try and basically frazzle them, try and create some broken play and whatnot.
It's really good to see Tom Banks back in the side playing well after his injury. Andy Muirhead even had quite a good game, ball in hand. Lenny Katau has been, I'm surprised I did. And Lenny Katau has been quiet for Lenny Katau. That 13 jersey is not locked in my opinion, for him. I still think he's probably my choice at the moment, even though he's not in the perfect form. But he really needs to step up against some of these Kiwi sides if he wants to stamp his name on that jersey, because he has competition in Perecki, Paisami, other people around the Aussie side. So I'm expecting him to hopefully get himself ball in hand. And that's been what I think's been lacking from him. Defensively, he's been good, but ball in hand, I want to see him running more at this Chiefs side and running at the likes of Tapaya and Nankerville, who, both very good centres. But if he's want to be a Wallaby outside centre, he should be, finding gaps through them.
And Nankerville's been absolutely awesome. So, I think this game, look, Nana Taturo has the top fantasy average of all players, and he's been unbelievable. So it's going to be huge. His re-edition is going to be huge, and it's Tapaya back in the midfield. They've really got the full attacking spectrum there, the Chiefs. This is probably one of the strongest sides they've had all year. So this is their time to go guns blazing. So, all right, how do I see this one going? I'm going to say I think that the Brumbies are on a roll. I mean, I almost talked myself into just saying how good the Chiefs will have everything going just then. But I think
mine too.
Yeah, I know, right? But I think the Brumbies they're just absolutely too clinical at the moment. They have a very clear game plan and they're executing that game plan week in, week out. I think that they'll bag them. Whilst the Chiefs can certainly defend them all, I think they might bag themselves another rolling maul try. And I think that they're, as I said, even their backs plays, their set plays they've been executing them to a high enough level And I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to win the territory game. Even with Caleb Trask back there, I don't think they're going to. I think the Brumbies are going to top it. So I'm going to say Brumbies, but not by much. I might say by, it's either 6 or 7 points. Maybe I'll go with 6 points. And my fantasy man of the match will probably still be a 10 and Alaalatoa. Just that guy touches the ball, he gets bulk points.
He's a hard one to go against. Look, for me, I said the Brumbies 5. I wrote this before their last matchup, and it's only solidified further with how they played in that last matchup. This is a strong Chiefs side, playing in New Zealand, completely different challenge to the last couple of weeks for the Brumbies. If they can win this one, they're proving that they can really be a challenger for Super Rugby this year.
That's it. This is the one I feel the most unsure about, I'd say.
This is a really tough matchup for them. So I think they can get it done, and I'm backing them by 5, but it's a big ask for them. In terms of who I think the man of the match is going to be, I almost feel like just picking one of my players to hope that they do well. I'm looking at the names of Peter Gusto or Cooler. But look, I'm gonna go someone who, it hurts me because he used to be in my side. I'm gonna go Tom Banks. I think Tom Banks, he's gonna have a lot of pressure on his shoulders to be kicking well, but he's really found his groove ball in hand this year, and I think he's been consistently a big threat for them. So I think he's probably going to get a lot of ball in this match with the Chiefs wanting to play out of their half, and hopefully he does pick his right moments and runs the ball back at when things are on. Yep,
agreed. Cool. All right, well, let's push on to the final game of the round, and then we can do a quick wrap up of desserts.
Second last game, mate. Penultimate game.
Is this the second last? Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
we'll
really
pump it out, mate. Let's go.
Yeah, let's absolutely pump. All right. Force Crusaders, new injuries. Force Tony Pulu. They've got Byron Ralston coming in to replace him on the right wing. Crusaders, we've got George Bauer, Cody Taylor, Sevu Reece, all on All Black rest weeks, I believe. And so coming in to replace them in the starting lineup, we've got Tammany Williams in the number 1 jersey, Ricky Jackson in at hooker, and George Bridge coming back in on the right wing for Sevu Reece. Otherwise, returning just for the Force, they've got Angus Wagner, who I think is coming back from an injury. He's on the bench. The replacement Loosehead, he's been pretty good. But Nels, do you want to take us through the Force, just position changes and what you think they're going to bring?
So we've got Ollie Callan shifting from that 8 jersey to that 7 jersey in the absence of Kateka. So we see Anthony coming back into the 8 jersey. He's a real threat for them if he's playing confident. So hopefully we see that from him. As you said, Ralston coming in for Pulu. I think that's the only starting changes for the Force, to be fair. I think you were saying that the sea of blue will be hoping for a sea of red cards to the Crusaders. But look, the interesting thing is the Crusaders, and the Crusaders fans might not want to hear it, but Crusaders have been able to have the rub of the green. They've been afforded that because they have been so good in the past. Because if you are so good, if it's a 50-50 call, the ref changes that from 50-50 to 60-40, and it's in your favor a lot of the time. Whereas at the moment, because things aren't going to plan for them, those 50-50 calls are starting to go against them. They're copping more cards than they have in previous years for similar instances. So you can't hope for a red card, but if the Force are going to be in this one, mate, you're probably fair enough with what you've said there that they're going to need some cards.
Yep, I agree. And look, I think really simply with the Force, they were getting worked over in the scrums by the Blues last week, which fair enough, big Blues pack. Crusaders, it's going to be, the same challenge again. So I hope they've done a lot of practice there and can really hold out with that. And otherwise, look, Isaac Fines, like we talked about before, we won't just go into it again, that Isaac Fines and Pasatoa have been awesome, bringing some punch. But essentially, the game plan's still the same, similar to Moana in giving the ball to Tavatava. But Force, just give it to Manasa Mataele. Let the guy step up. Yeah. The Force showed it. It was an awesome showing against the Blues last week, and they were so close, so in that game. So, they're going to take a lot of confidence from that, and hopefully they can make something happen. But by the same token, and they're very lucky that the game is in Perth, because by the same token, we've said it for years, but whenever the Crusaders lose, they come back the next week with a fiery vengeance. So
I don't know the last time they've lost twice in a row.
Exactly. So whilst they have still, a couple of All Black rests here, again, a weakened Crusaders side, if we will. No, I'm joking. But they do have Richie Mo'unga in there. And all back.
They've got Richie Mo'unga back and all back. Ethan Black at the back. So this is a pretty strong side. Tamati Williams coming into the loose head role, which we saw him, filling in last year. He's been a bit more tight head this year, and joined by Ricky Jackson, as you touched on earlier. For George Bauer, Cody Taylor, both out. You'd love to keep talking about Tamati Williams, but we'll keep on moving on, mate. He's a big boy. Gardner to the bench, Gallagher, who was pulled pretty late. He's back into the lock position. Tom Christie's out of the 23 completely, with Blackadder feeling it. I was going to say unfamiliar role of 7, but maybe he's played a bit there for them. So not unfamiliar, but a less preferred back rower role for him. Drummond coming in at 9, Mo'unga back, Burke's going to the bench. Goodhue out of the 23 completely. I'm not sure what's going on there. We'll probably find out from Harry later on. And I'll back into that starting 13. Bridge to start. When I first read this, I went, they've finally seen the light and they're not putting Bridge on. But no, they're resting Sever Reece and putting Bridge back into that back 3. But yeah, this is a good side.
It is, yeah. No, look, I knew you had to know as fantasy managers that Sever Reece rest was coming up. It was inevitable. He started I don't know how many, the last probably like 4 or 5 games in a row. So didn't surprise me. I knew it was coming, but no, exactly. It's a hell of a good side, and I think that the Crusaders will take a lot of learnings from the Tars game last week, but also in cross-examining that Force Blues game. And I think that they're really going to bring it, and they're going to bring it from the very start. So last week they were a bit stunned to be down 14-0 after 10 minutes. Don't think that's going to happen with the Force. So I think the Crusaders are going to go hard from minute 1.
Look, I agree with you. I think the Force have really muscled up in defence. You touched on it a little bit earlier. So their aim's really going to be to, slow some of these threats for the Crusaders. Try and temper that a little bit, temper that Crusader excitement when they get ball in hand, and look to take points when they're on offer. But they've said it themselves, you can't beat these Kiwi sides without tries. So for them, that's where the real threat is. You got Manasa Matayeli, an ex-Crusaders player, being your biggest threat. People always say the forwards win the game, backs win by how much. But we've talked about the last few games. It's forwards win the games, and your Fijian wingers decide by how much. So if the forwards can man up and they can get the ball to Matayeli, they're going to be in this game. But to me, it's going to be too much of an ask, even with the more cohesive unit at the moment of the Force than this, Crusaders side that's undergone more and more changes every week. I was talking to Ben Darwin, interested in what he was thinking about the cohesion from this side, and he said he was crunching the numbers, but I think there's been too many changes, so it's taken him a bit of time. So this is a very different Crusaders side moving forward compared to the past, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's not going to blow out as bad as you're probably leaning towards, and say the Crusaders are going to win this just more than 2 tries, which is still big. I'm going to say they're going to win it by 15.
Oh, see, look, I'm going to surprise you in that, my initial thoughts were at a bit of a big summer blowout, but no, I actually think the Force have done an awesome job at keeping stopping teams scoring points. So I'm going to say the Crusaders will win, but maybe by 10. So even with a vengeance, go with that. And then in terms of fantasy players of the match, I'm going to pick the low-hanging fruit here, nice and simply, Richie Mo'unga. Then I'll leave you to pick any other Crusader you'd like, my friend.
Yeah, that's fair. He's a hard one to go past. I'm just looking at who's running at Byron Ralston, and that's Lester Whanganuku. So there's my pick.
Yeah, done. Beautiful. All right, well, let's get through the last game of the round. We've got the Hurricanes taking on the Fijian Ndrua in Wellington, I believe. The Hurricanes, interestingly, have not learnt from the time when they rested heaps of players against Moana Pacifica, and have decided to rest players against the Fijian Ndrua. So they're resting Geordie Barrett, both the Sevilla brothers, and James Blackwell.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Geordie Barrett and the Sevilla brothers. Huge.
Interestingly, the Drua are missing some, huge parts of their side. Vinaya Hambosi, who's one of the best players in this comp, most pivotal players in this comp. Dolokoto, who's been playing very well in the rake position for them. And Lamani, he's out of this side as well. So it's not a full strength side for either team. So, that changes your cohesion. That changes how well you can defend. We talked about earlier, the Forces stick to their side that they've had in previous weeks, and that's going to be a real strength for them defensively. But both of these teams, are forced to make changes, and they've made other changes outside that. So neither team's going to be a great cohesive defensive unit, and both of these teams can score points. So this could be an open match.
Absolutely. And look, returning for this one for the Hurricanes, I thought I felt like I was going to mention that there were heaps of players coming back from Reds cards a week early, and I feel like there has only been Josh Dixon and now Asafo Amua. So I don't know where I was getting that from in my head, but Asafo Amua coming back a week early, he did his don't take someone's head off tackle course.
So he's going to be out after this week then, is that what we're saying?
That's it. And I reckon he probably didn't even, I think that's fair. I think he probably didn't even want to do the course, but then Dane Coles is finally back this week, returning from the bench. So he thought, okay, all right, he's back. I'll do the course. No worries. I'm still starting this weekend. Asafo Amua and Dane Coles back. That's a pretty gnarly rake pairing to have right there. But also Owen Franks. So Dane Coles coming back from some niggling injury. I forget what it is. Long-term niggle. They've really taken their time with old man Coles.
Old man bone. Yep.
Yeah. Owen Franks, not speaking of old men, he's still yet to make his debut for the Hurricanes, but he's come back, been training, had some injury, but he might make a potential debut off the bench at tight head for the Canes. And
he's penciled in. I don't think he's locked in to be ready, but hopefully he will be. That's
it. And otherwise, we've had Duplessis Karifi come back. I'm not clear whether that was an injury or just not being selected. You'd have to think an injury. And then Ray
I'd have to think it was a card that we didn't see. So like gets cards left on centre.
Yeah. There was a private judicial hearing. There's another level of the judiciary in New Zealand. There's the Duplessis judiciary, And Rayasi and Hussein coming back from just a rest on both the weeks.
Hussein, mate. Hussein.
Hoisin. A bit of hoisin sauce in your stir fries. How good. And the Drua, no one really coming back from injuries, just a few new faces.
Lots of changes for both sides here. You've got Namia also coming in for Rickety Stone for the Canes.
Actually, that's an injury. Rickety Stones was pulled pre-game last week, so Namia actually ended up starting and played the whole game, a lot of the game, and was great, I have to say. Really like him.
He's an exciting player. I really do rate him. You touched on the hooker changes. Blackwell back in for Walker Leaweri. Walker Leary. Blackwell's out for Walker Leaweri.
Yep.
Sorry, my mistake. But you keep saying double jackal, the double kind of open side flank role.
Well, it's because I know you'd like to normalise it, mate, but it's not convention. Get one jackler on there, mate, all right? Then give me two big lads to hit some people. That's what I want.
Get as many as you can fit.
Give me a Jerome Kano and a Victor Vito on there. Give me some big beasts to kill people, all right?
So we've got Karifi, we've got Blake Gibson. If I had to pick one, I'm picking Blake Gibson. So Karifi's the lucky one here, in my opinion. TK Howden is out of the starting side. We've also, interestingly, got Tyler Labshaw. I don't know, Labshaw. Nice. Oh, he's South African, mate. So I don't know how that translates.
All I know is that's wrong. That's all I know.
Give it a crack. Show us how it is.
No, I don't know how to correct it. I just know that's definitely wrong. That's it.
To be fair, I'm reading your writing, so you probably spelled it wrong. Laubschke. Let's say Laubschke. That's it. Like, if you say it confidently, that's all that matters. Yeah. And look, he's started one game for the Manawatu Turbos in the NPC. Big body, 194, 104 kilos, 21-year-old, South African born. TK Howden is on the bench, but I won't say your man, but someone you wish was your man. Yossi is not even on that side.
I think Braden Yossi is still injured, but it seems interesting. just flat out start this guy, Tyler, you know, when you've got TK Howden and all these other guys. So I don't know.
You finish it? What was his name?
I ended with Tyler, so I can't be wrong if I've never said it, you know.
You can see that one hurts you deep, because when I said, you know, Eosi's not playing, you went, yeah, like the highest I've ever heard you say anything. You're very confused, but you're questioning life at that point, that question. But we've got Garden Baship moved to the bench, Jackson Garden Baship, and Aidan Morgan then coming back in to start in that 10 role. Peter Umwanga Jensen, the lesser Jensen, in my eyes, he's given a rest.
The All Black Jensen.
Yeah, but the lesser one. And Billy Proctor coming in to 12 with Sullivan continuing in that 13 jersey. We've got Julian Sevilla and Geordie Barrett out of their back three, with Riati and Hussein on the wings, with Josh Morby coming back in that fullback role. I don't know if anyone else has made the comparison, but he seems like another Hussein to me, or Hussein, whatever you want to call, you know, as at the number 15 role, like just the way he can hit a line and find those gaps, and you're a little bit confused sometimes how he does it, and he pops out the other side, but he is a real threat for them as well.
Josh,
he's not Jordan Barrett, but he's a threat.
Yeah, no, that's a good analysis. I think he is. He's just a bit of a lesser Hussein, isn't he? Really. Yeah, nice. All right. The Drua, we're very for this one. So no Dolicoto. Ikenevieri has still been left to the bench, and we've got Zuriel Togiatama coming in for a rare start. So he's only played a couple of games. I don't know if I think he's got one start maybe, but it seems like a big change. Samuela Tawaki back into the rotate. So he was on the bench last week, rotated into starting in the 3 jersey. He's started quite a few games there. They've rotated back in the young locks. So Nasila Silla and Tui Fagaleli which are great. I really like both of them. I particularly like Tui Fagaleli. I really liked it the second time. Did well the first time, but couldn't get the second time.
Confident, mate.
He's been good, but yeah, and then just speaking of youngsters, there's Kirioni Salawa. He's come in for Mira, and Darren Alangi's and Cricket Avetta still remaining in
Perecki in the Veta. Yes, Perecki in the Veta.
Still remaining in the 6 and 8 jersey. Bit of
how do we leave you to talk about the Fiji inside?
I don't know how he did, but no, I thought I had picked up in my fantasy side Nemani Nagusa, because I thought he's the only person who hasn't come back a week early. I don't know if he didn't do the red card tackling course, but so he might be back next week, the Drua captain, which leaves Darren Alangi captaining the side another week this week.
And then we've got confusion a little bit around, because I mean, the Ndrua have been picking people out of position left, right, and centre through their backs in recent weeks, and it appears that someone is missing from this back line. So we've got Kuravoli at 9, and either we're missing a 10 or we're missing a 12 in this lineup. What I think is that we're missing maybe someone to fill in that 10 jersey, because we've got Teti Tella on the bench. So I think someone else is coming in maybe in to fill that 10 jersey. Kitioni Ratu, who more of an outside back, I think is filling that wing role for them. Matasiwa and Vota in the centres, Ravatomanda and Talinga at the right wing and fullback. You see it differently. You think that Ravau is hidden in there, and that they've changed Ratu and said, you know, I know you're a fullback or a winger. You should play fly half this week.
Well, mate, Kuravoli played fly half the other day. No, I think Ratu's played some fly half before. So I think they just, in announcing the team list, they have simply, and we're just looking at this at rugby.com.au, the lineups, they have simply forgotten to put Calaveri Ravovo in there. And so maybe we're both wrong. Maybe they're just missing a 9. They haven't found who's going to play 9. They've gone Kuravoli can play 10. Kikioni Ratu on the left wing. That's probably it, because Lamani's out, and they've gone, who plays number 9? This is a very good point. So look, we've chucked a bunch of names out there, and some of them will be playing, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle of just insert who you think the missing piece is. But but I was going to say either way,
it's not a full bench. They don't even have a full bench there. I think they're missing a halfback on the bench. So this is their issue. They don't have any halfbacks. They've got one, and he looks like he's probably playing fly.
I think, isn't Nawai on the bench a halfback?
Oh, yeah, maybe he is, sorry.
Yeah. But look, either way, it's, I mean, just come on, get the lineups correct, please. But what can we say? This game, look, I think, I think it's a big call for the Hurricanes to rest these players. I know you have to get your All Black rest weeks in, right? So you do have to give Geordie Barrett and Artie rest weeks. And I guess by that logic, when's the best time to do? Well, I don't know. I'd say when's the best time to do it. I personally would think against the Aussie sides, probably not against the Drua. I would be doing that against maybe the Rebels or the Force would be my thoughts. But
the big thing is, I said it before, Darwin's theory is your cohesion affects your defence. So we know that the Ndrua can attack and attack better than most Aussie sides. So you're weakening your defence
everywhere.
Against an absolute all-out threatening attacking side. That's probably not what you want to do. If you go against a side that isn't seen as an attacking side, the Force, maybe that's when you go, well, maybe we can get away with it a little bit more, and that's that thought process. But I mean, who knows? They can win this one convincingly, and feel like they're on top of the world. But look, it's going to be a big ask still for the Ndrua to win this one either way. But they're still going to push the Canes in my eyes.
All right. Well, look, without going further into the game, because I think, very, very simply in this game, it is just going to be, can the Drua play for 80 minutes? And what kind of, I keep saying what kind of start the teams get off to, but what kind of start do the Hurricanes get off to? I think they're going to probably look for tries in the rolling maul. They're going to try and lean on that forward pack, Asafo Mua, Dan Coles, to get in there. But I'm actually, I don't know if this is just because it's getting late towards the end of this podcast, but I'm thinking that the Drua can win this game, even being over in New Zealand. And I'm starting to think my tip is going to go towards the Drua. I think that the Drua have been there or thereabouts in so many games. I don't love that they're changing. There's a couple of changes to the team list, although, mainly, I don't like that Hambossi is not playing. But as I said, I think there's
and maybe not Ravau.
No, I think that I'm backing that it's Ravau and Vota is there, and they've just stuffed up the team lineup. But
hopefully,
I'm just going to go out there and back the Drua to win this by 4 points.
Wow.
So, there you
big.
Go. Huge. Yep.
It's big. Look, I'd love to do that. The Fijian Drua have really threatened teams. They threatened the Highlanders, who I think are not to the level where the Hurricanes are. Hurricanes lost last week against a very strong Brumby side. So you can definitely argue that this is going to be a tight one. But I think the Canes are going to get this done, but not that convincingly. I think they're going to win it by, a score. So I'm going to say they're going to win it by 5 points.
Excellent. All right. And fantasy man of the match in this one. The only thing, my grievance in this game, would be that why, if Hambossi's not starting, why is Retarde on the bench? That's I just wanted to get that out of there. But I'm sure all the fantasy managers like me will be feeling that. But have Retarde.
Fair grievance.
But look, fantasy man of the match in this one, I'm just going to go ahead and back. He's not actually in my team anymore, so no longer my boy, but Asafo Aumua. You can't really go past him.
I like it.
Old mate has been getting big fantasy scores without even really playing the house down. So he hasn't even had one of these big ripper games yet this year, but this could be the one.
That's very fair. Look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Kitoni Ratu is playing on the left wing for the Ndrua, and that means Wes Hussein is going to be a big scorer on the right wing for the Canes coming up against that man.
Excellent. Very good. All right, well, look,
Do we skip dessert, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say we probably can. I think we've pretty much covered. What we'd be doing is just going to some optimistic chat in terms of, and we'd be getting more and more diluted about how the Aussies' performances last week, the greater plus or minus means that it's a new chapter. It's it's May the 4th. You've got the Star Wars background in your whatever. Is it A New Hope? What is it?
This for me was. Human me, if you will, was a question I was going to pose to you, saying, after the results on the weekend, has it changed how you think the Aussie sides are going to compete against the Kiwis over the next 4 weeks? Because, I mean, my guess is that you thought, we'd get 3 wins, maybe 5 wins at best. We're 3 in. Do you think we're going to continue to see a couple upsets, or do we think we're only going to see the Brumbies get the win?
Look, I'm glad that you can't remember, but I will fess up to exactly what I said
one win
on the pod that you weren't there. I said that in total, I thought that the Aussies would get 3 wins. So
I said 3 to 5, mate. I was giving you,
Yeah, I said 3. I think Harry said 5, and I think we both agreed that you would be up in the maybe 6 or 7 category, just as the biggest optimist of all of us.
Probably.
I do obviously would like to review my claim of 3. I do think we're going to get some more wins. I think the Brumbies will probably get at least another win, maybe another 2 wins. I think the Reds are probably due 1 or 2 wins. So I'd like to say we're probably going to get, I'd say between 6 and 8 wins, I would say. But
okay. I mean, that's not bad.
So
it's not setting the world light, but it's probably, what we would consider a good result. I think moving forward. Look, I think this week the Reds can have a shout against the Highlanders.
Mm-hmm.
No James O'Connor, no Tupou is big. So just the caveat with both of them there, I would be backing them to win. I think we can look at the Waratahs versus Moana. We're not going to count that one, obviously. Brumbies versus the Chiefs, but in New Zealand is a real challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we get a win this week. Anything better than that would be phenomenal. Moving forward, who else do the Brumbies have? They've got the Crusaders. It's a tough ask. They've got the Blues. It's a tough ask. Then they've got the Moana Pacifica. So maybe they don't get another win, or maybe this is it. Maybe it's this week. So another couple wins, another 3 wins to get you in that bracket of 6 to 8, I think is a pass mark from here. And I'd like to see more than that. But yeah, 6 to 8 is probably that pass mark.
Agreed. Look, I agree. I think we forgot to even do the deserto. You're getting the stern looks from the missus, and we need to end on. We haven't thrown enough shade on our counterpart for not showing up tonight. As we said to begin with, Harry. I mean, look, didn't come to the Tars game. He'll give some excuse about how he was serving the community, or saving someone's dog, or doing something. But I mean, was he there? No. And also, where is he in the OG league? He's about to fall out of the top 4. So. I mean, mate, do we even have him back on the pod, Nels? That's what I'm thinking. Does he even get back?
I don't know,
on?
Mate. I think he's going to work his way back in. There's some stiff competition from everyone else that was lining up to be the 3rd member on the pod this week.
This is true.
But Harry and I did have a pod on Monday, so I mean,
you got to plug that. Where can people find that, and what was that?
So that was the Squidge rugby retrospective. We were going back to 1987, back in our time machines. Watching Australia, Trump's probably the right word. USA, probably a fair term there. USA in the Rugby World Cup. But yeah, look, Harry, he's just not committed like us. I did have a question for you. From my side, from my screen, looking at you, it looks like the wind's blowing right to left by that moustache. Is that what's happening there?
You talking about my perfectly symmetrical moustache? Is that what you're talking about?
Mate, it's all going one direction. I don't know what's going on there. I feel like I should get a photo.
Mate, look, I've had other professional podcasters comment on how perfect my moustache is, and your lack of appreciation is where I think we'll end the pod tonight. So definitely something to. I can see you snapping a quick photo. You can take as many as you want, mate. Just don't use that. Don't use that in your own private time in the bathroom later, though, please. I just want
to ask people, which way is the wind going? It's a simple question.
All right, with that, let's call it. This has been the Draft Rugby Show. Thanks for tuning in and staying with us, and we'll catch you again in the next one.
Hooroo.
You.
All right. Bedtime.
Yep, I got to end the recording, which means I got to end the call. So where's that?
All right. I'll catch you later, mate. That was a big in. We said let's do the shortest one ever, but we had too much fun because we didn't have Harry the party pooper.
Pretty much.